Hello, everyone, and welcome to week 7 of the season 3 of the Inspire series. I'm here once again with my partners in story, Josh, Karen, Sarah, Holly, and Michelle. Welcome, everyone. Tonight we are talking about, and this came about because it's been something that a lot of authors have been querying me personally about, and that's the three main elements of the book: the cover, the title, and the blurb, and their importance. A lot of authors I've spoken with, I've really had to talk them through. Yes, you do judge a book by its cover.
Yeah, you do.
That's been a really tricky concept. I don't know if you guys have agreed with that or have come across that. But that's been a really big issue. So I just thought I would throw it out there, get all your thoughts on it, for anyone who may be watching us. So, Josh, your books.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
one of the strange with my kids' books. I always dictate what the cover's going to be. With and I know a lot of other authors, it's not that they leave it up to the publisher or the illustrator or whatever to work out. But I'm a little bit demanding in that regard. I don't know why. I think it's a sense of control. And over the last 3 or 4 books, I have wanted an iconic type of image for the cover, because when I first started publishing, my publisher said your book has to have shelf shout, and that has stuck with me ever since. So it's got to literally shout from the shelves as someone's walking through the bookshops and all that sort of stuff. It's got to go, hey, look at me, open me up, have a look, that sort of thing. And so with me, I go, okay, well, look, what I want is one simple image, simple illustration that goes onto the cover. So for Magnificent Mistakes and Fantastic Failures, I had Graham the giraffe, and he's become, I've now actually got a stuffed version of Graham the giraffe, which I take with me everywhere. And then Being Wildly Kind, I had Bernadette the bee, and my new book, which is going to be coming out in May next year, I've got a pig called, what's it called? The name just left me. Preston the pig, and he's playing a guitar because he's so cool. So I always design what the cover is going to look like, so I know that it marries up with the interiors, and I know it's going to be, have that shelf shout. But it's also the title. I try and come up with several different titles, and then my publisher would go, okay, well, that works, that doesn't work, that works. But it's also the subheading of each book is the other important thing, because with the new book with Preston the pig, it's about gratitude and feeling gratitude. And so the book title is called Thank You, because it's, getting kids to go, oh, thank you for this, thank you for that. But the original subtitle was really something really lame and boring, was like a little book about gratitude. And we all went, oh, there's got to be something better than that. There's got to be something better. And then it wasn't until I was writing the blurb for it, and I'm coming up with ideas, okay, really simple blurb. And I said, how to turn a grey day into a yay day. And then bang, there we go. That's the subtitle. So it's Thank You, how to turn a grey day into a yay day. And then that coupled with the picture of the pig on the front and playing guitar, it just has that whole package that should give it that shelf shout. So when the kids are in the bookshops, they actually go, oh, okay, this looks interesting, or the parents see that and that looks interesting to them. So, but then again, how it's positioned at the bookshop is another topic altogether. We won't get into that.
That's another topic.
We won't get into that. So that's a little bit about how I do it, but I'm very controlling. I'm a hands-on, want to dictate. But the book blurb is super, super important, but the hardest thing to do.
Yeah,
Definitely.
Yeah. Sarah, you've got a lot of editions of The Heavy Bag.
Yeah.
Yes. Do you want to talk us through that? Because
so I brought them with me today, actually. I remember. So The Heavy Bag, that is the first edition, UK edition, and it's just really standardized. And I worked with the illustrator because I self-published this, so we were going backwards and forwards, and I just had this idea in my mind that obviously I wanted the bag to be really prominent, and I kind of wanted the main character, to be kind of nondescript, and that's actually worked for the translation. So that is the main one. Most of the foreign editions have done the same. They've stuck to it. It works. That's the Romanian one. So the format's changed. That's a hardback. But they have stuck to it. Apart from the American edition, and they have changed it. So this is where things can change because of the market that your book sits in. So this is the American edition. And they have the title, which Josh was talking about, and then they have, for them, it was important to have the subtitle. So it's The Heavy Bag still, but One Girl's Journey Through Grief. So that just kind of explains, it's more of an explainer. And that's because this book has a lot more sort of back matter, explains about what the actual book's about. So the actual front cover has remained the same for all of the editions, apart from the American, and the German one's going to change as well.
Yeah.
So I had quite a lot of control, obviously, over the first one. The American one, I left that to them because, as you know, once you kind of hand everything over to a publisher, that's when it is really their call. But they do run things past you. So it's definitely, it's the eye-catching feature that you need to remember. But also I'm thinking about Josh's as well. You know, children are going to know those books are from you. And I think that's another thing to remember now, because we're thinking about a book, but more often than not, publishers want series and they want more books from the same author. So it's quite nice to have your own style. I mean, it's lovely to work with different illustrators, but to have your own style it's also kind of a marketing tool when children start to recognize who that book might be from. So that's something to bear in mind. And as Josh said, blurb is so important. And I just wanted to say, just remember your blurb, you kind of it's a sales pitch. You know, you're not going into the conclusion. That's when you have your synopsis. There's a difference. And what I've been asked for recently, which I haven't before, is an elevator pitch. So I've got blurb with no conclusion, but just, you know, just to entice people in. You've got your synopsis, which is what your agent or your publishers are going to be using when they send it out to ARC readers or whoever. It's just synopsis, and that's kind of a shortened version of your book. But I've been asked for this elevator pitch recently, and it's under 50 words, and it is a little bite size about your book, but also you've got to kind of marry this together. So that's quite new for me. I don't know if anyone else has been doing elevator pitches for a while. Yeah, okay. So that's the three, isn't it? And you've got to get it right.
Yeah.
You have to be really succinct. You've got to say what you need to say without giving anything away, but say it in such a way that within the first 3 words the person's curious.
Yeah.
And it's not easy. It's difficult. And it's something you have to work at and work at. Karen, I know when we did Home, that blurb took us longer than anything else.
Yeah.
And sometimes just one word. It was
we agonised over that a lot.
Do you want to read it out, Karen?
War ends, yet its dark shadow remains. A family is forced to flee their home. As they journey through hunger, long cold nights and homelessness, a heart locket whispers words of hope, and a country that's far away calls for those that are no longer wanted. It offers new beginnings and a precious place once more to call home. And
Beautiful.
what the piece of
Yeah.
Also the image that goes with the blurb.
That's really, really important as well, Karen. So who was the blurb? Who were you writing the blurb for? The parents or the kids?
Well, you have to think of the audience. It's an older audience.
Mm.
So this is more teacher
Oh, is it? Okay.
orientated, parent orientated, but also it's for anybody like children who are interested in what happens when a war finishes. It's quite topical now with what's going on. So you could pick this up. It's sort of, it leaves hope and positivity that, you're going to come out of something like that. And
That's a really good point, actually, because who reads the blurb at the back? Kids don't read the blurb at the back. Kids are just going to flick open the book or read the cover, whereas it's the adults, the parents, the teachers who read the blurb.
The booksellers, the librarians, anybody will pick it up and look at it and want to know what it's about. But the first thing that attracts someone is the cover. And even the size of the book is important, and the shape of the book.
Oh, don't get into that area, because that will dictate where you go in the bookshop.
Yes, but it also plays too with how it attracts the eye. And
that's if it can attract the eye. If you are placed face out in the bookshop, that's a huge benefit. Some books don't even get to that stage. They go straight to the slide on section.
I think
so then you really need the spine to be wow.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
About a picture book is the image first on the cover. It's so important. And I was so determined. Jennifer knows this with our Shell Harbour. Emma did the spreads and I didn't pay for her to do the cover. So I could have used one of hers that I had in my head what I wanted, and I wouldn't deviate. It was my vision right from the start. It had to be this. So I paid for her to alter the image she had and move it so it could be. I said, it has to be this. I live here. The boat harbour's iconic. I knew it had to be the boat harbour, and I couldn't deviate from it. So we tried other ones, but I couldn't. I just kept going, no, I can't see. And
we tried about 6 other ones, didn't we? Everyone I sent through, no.
I couldn't.
Well, how about this one? No.
And I've learned too, from this process, you listen to your gut. Someone else can say something's wonderful and it looks great, but my gut knew no. And with this, people, I mean, I only got the books today, but people who see the image of the cover instantly are going, I want a book. And that's
what you want, isn't it?
Yeah.
And the title, then you have to know by looking at that title, what is it about instantly? With that, and it's only one word, but you also know with this, it's our home, our Shell Harbour.
Yeah.
I
think having that word "our" makes such a difference, doesn't it? Rather than if it was just Shell Harbour, "our." So instantly they know that probably the person that's written this is connected to Shell Harbour. Like there's so much context that one word in that title gives.
And it's not mine. It's for a community. It's ours. It's our place. We're celebrating our place. And it's our heart too. And it should come through. If what you're doing, if you're passionate about it, like your heart comes through. Like even with this, like home, look where the home's placed. Here. And it's right near the heart. And here, this person loves this place. Who's created this book? And the blurb, that was mine to write too, and you use some of the text too from your book, from in your internals. You get some of your gold lines and you know which ones to put. So the bottom of this blurb finishes with, "Shell Harbour is our treasure," because that's the message with the book.
Mm.
And then you go inside the book to see what the treasure is.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly right. I mean, with my the thank you book, is that on the inside I've got two double page spreads. One goes, how to turn a grey day, and there's a picture of a grey city, and you flip the page into a yay day, and it's all bright, colourful city with flowers and all that sort of stuff. And it wasn't until I'd read that about 50,000 times when, that is what we're going to use as a subtitle. So it comes from what you've already written. And I think that's what people, they think they've got to reinvent the wheel. Just go back to what you've actually written and then pull bits out of that.
Yeah, yeah. Michelle, you've published several books. What's your take on this?
With most of my books being traditionally published, I don't actually get a lot of say in the covers. And I've even had some instances where a publisher has changed the title, which is always interesting. So with Ruby's Repair Cafe, it was Claire's Repair Cafe, but they thought Claire was a bit of a too old-fashioned name, so they changed it to Ruby's. But I'm not very good at the illustration layout kind of thing, and I know my sphere of genius. I know that I'm not good at, choosing what goes on the front cover. And I've been very lucky that I've had some great people who are much better at doing things than me, who've been able to make that decision. And I also can't illustrate. So I always kind of default to an illustrator, giving them autonomy to a certain degree for them to feel like it's their story as well. So they get to create that literacy story that's happening in the illustrations. And I'm just so blessed that I've had lots of illustrators make me look good. And I'm very grateful for that. But yeah, I love what Zoe did with Ruby's Repair Cafe and the illustrations. And, the blurb is always the hardest thing to write. It just is. I don't know why, it just is. But I also throw a curveball and say that the other thing that I absolutely love are the end pages. So end pages for me are like a little bit of a thing that I love, even though you don't always get end pages. But what I love that Zoe did with this is the first end page of the book where the town's looking a little bit sad, and then at the end it's the same picture, but the town's all fixed and lovely and shiny and new. So, I mean, there's lots of little things that you can do to visually make your book more appealing. And when I go to school visits, we always talk to kids about, when you're at the shop or at the library, do you sit there and read the whole story before you decide whether you're going to borrow it? No, you look at the front cover. So your front cover is your advertisement. So you need to, as somebody who's creating that, make it more inviting and make kids want to read it.
Yeah, and you use the word advertisement there, and that's what it is. And when you're looking, whether it's a library or a bookshop, there's your advertisement and there's someone else's and someone else's. So you have to make yours do that shelf shout that Josh was talking about to stand out from everyone else's. And I really give a lot of credit to illustrators and their work, because it's, it's beyond me. And I just really admire quite often what they do and how they do it, because many can just tune into that and the importance of it. Yeah.
Mm.
And I think we've spoken before about the difference between your story and your book, your physical product. And I think our job as writers is to make the story aesthetically pleasing. We're using all these lovely words or rhymes, or however we want to tell the story and make that really beautiful is one thing. But then you have the book, you have this physical product, which is just a completely separate plan that you're starting from the beginning again of how to make the book so beautiful, because you ultimately want them to read the story, but they are these kind of two two parts of what you're about to do. So I think it's so important to then sort of start with fresh eyes, because you write your story, and then you or the publisher they're going to look at this physical product, this book, and how they're going to make this appealing to first of all, as Josh said, parents in the store, because they are ultimately the ones who are going to go in there and read that blurb and want to really know what the book's about. What is their child going to be reading? You know, they are the gatekeepers. But then also for the children to just visually look at the book and just want it. So you've got to kind of think of all your different audiences, of ultimately how to get your story into that book and then get it out there. And just just a tip, because you keep mentioning bookstores, Josh, just go in there and just move yours and put it to the front.
I do.
I do that. I do that.
You'll do it.
It's the unwritten law of all authors. When they go into a bookshop, if your book is not front and center, you make it front and center.
Yeah.
And then you take a photo and then you put it on Instagram.
Oh, this is a really good book. I might buy this book. This is a great book.
Bill raised a really good point too. When your book's in the library, it's the child that's choosing the book. So
That's a good point. Oh, yes, Karen.
So the cover needs to appeal to a child too.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh, the cover has to.
I watch them when I go to the library, and I like that one, because they don't even look at it for 1 second. They're thinking about it.
Yeah.
Pick it up, and you go, "That's the one I want." They wouldn't have a clue what it's about.
Yeah.
The cover or picture or whatever. So it's interesting. It's a tricky thing.
Yeah.
Picture books are a tricky thing. I think we've talked about this before. It's one of the only genres where your audience is different from your target market.
Yeah.
So it has to appeal to everybody. It has to appeal to kids, to publishers, to parents, to teachers. It's just like this magic unicorn thing that needs to be a Tim Tam for everybody. And I mean, you're not always going to get it right. But at the end of the day, if it's something that's a true representation of your stories, like Josh's books are a true representation of what he wants them to be. They're a visual representation of all of that wonderful juicy goodness that's circling around in his head. And I've had so many books now with so many different illustrators. I don't think there is a visual representation. If you look at all my books, like, you wouldn't be able to tell it was mine. I'm hoping they can tell from the story, but there is definitely something to be said, like Sarah was saying, for at least having something so that people can recognize, either by how a book looks or what a story is, that you're the one who wrote it.
Yeah. I see that with your mouse books though, Michelle. I have
the series.
People look at the mouse, as in, so little kids look at the mouse. Oh, that's Michelle. Because your mouse is on the cover of all your books.
Yep.
Same mouse. Your titles may differ. The covers are all similar but different, but the mouse, they identify. So it's that kind of same thing with your mouse books,
It's the power of having that recurring character, if you're lucky enough to have a series.
Children like repetition, don't they? And to be able to recognize for themselves.
And like with your heavy bag, it's it doesn't matter what language it's in.
No.
That little girl and the bag is the same over and over and over. It's that consistency, so people recognize it as your story.
One of the things that I discovered was that I think I'm creating whatever I want kids to remember me by, or the parents, but the kids have got their own idea. I found out, a couple of years ago, you get your little kids come up at the school and go, "I've got some of your books." "Okay, Mick, which one?" And they'll go, "The blue one," or they'll go, "The yellow one." And it's all about the colors of the books. That's how they remember them. So I'm thinking, "Oh, is it Graham the giraffe one? Oh, is that the purple one?" So they're just going by the colors. So that's how I now talk to kids. Which book have you got? Have you got the yellow one? Have you got the blue one? Have you got the purple one or whatever? So the new book is now going to be red. So that's going
Yay.
to add to the color. Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And the other thing too is a really good picture book, I think, can appeal to a child or an adult.
Oh, yeah.
And
Look
so,
at Meg McKinlay's work.
yeah, I hate it when people go, oh, what's the age group? Because I can see a picture book being used by, I don't like pigeonholing it, but they say one of the things when you do a pitch or anything, they go, what's your target market? What's your age group? Is it 3 to 8? Is it 5 to 7 or whatever, or is it 5 and under? So they go, what's your target? And I struggled with that for a long time because as a teacher, we're going on a bear hunt with year 6.
Wow.
I used any ones that I loved, I used all the way through. And you should have seen their faces light up when I pulled it out because they loved it in kindergarten and they went,
Familiarity.
the writing techniques and things. So I find it really hard to say no. And it's the same with our Shell Harbour. They'll go, what age group or home? And I think, well, a really good picture book's message can be for a child and an adult. Same with your books or Michelle's or The Heavy Bag and Holly. I don't know what about you with your books. They appeal to not just one defined age bracket, do they?
I don't think so.
Yeah, see? So it's really tricky. But if you're pitching, they want to know. So you have to know that, but also I think it's got to have layers. So, and those come through.
And that's true. And I find, like, I know when I write media releases, they want to know who's your target. And if I don't put an age group in, 2 to 6 or 3 to 8 or whatever it might be, they reject it. It's just and so it gets really tricky sometimes. And
if I've had an assessment, say, they'll go, oh, we don't think it suits that age group. They'll change. So, and then it looks like, oh, you don't know your stuff. Like, it's tricky. It's always tricky.
So last thing before we finish this, has anyone ever done the really tricky 30-second elevator pitch?
Oh, all the time.
All the time.
All the time. All the time. Because I mean, I come from advertising background, so I'm having to condense stuff, big mobs of information to really short things, and how to pitch it to people so they should go, oh, okay, I get that, I love that. And so you really got to. It is literally the elevator pitch. You've got to be at a party and they go, what do you do? Or what are you doing at the moment? I'm working on this. And then you've got to explain it in less than 30 seconds. So they go, oh, wow, that's fascinating. And that is really tricky.
If you know your story well enough, you can do it. But if you're still forming your story and you're not certain, you're not as good at it. And they say when you go to a conference, they go, oh, you might run into a publisher at morning tea or in the elevator, and they'll ask, oh, what are you writing? What's it about? And that's what they say, that's the elevator pitch time.
That's your cue.
So
you've got until I walk from here to there to tell me what your story is.
But if you like, I can say with home's about losing a home, finding a new one, but never forgetting the one you lost.
Beautiful, simple.
That's pitch.
And that's exactly what it is. How do you cope with 30-second pitches, Michelle?
I can talk with marbles in my mouth underwater, so it's a little bit hard to kind of put things down to 30 seconds. But I think what I find most terrifying about having to do an elevator pitch for picture books is the pictures make up so much of the story. And when you're talking to someone and pitching to someone, you've also got to incorporate that you are having images of what you're saying in your head. So it's not just as simple as like if you were pitching an adult novel or something like that, where it's just words only. You've got to be able to pitch to them so that they're already picturing an illustrator in their head if you're not an author illustrator. So it's a lot harder than what it sounds. And when you are pitching and doing that elevator pitch, like Sarah was saying before, it doesn't hurt to throw a little bit of why you were the best person to write that book in there as well, because a lot of the time they want to know what's your personal connection to the book or what makes you the authority to write the book. So like you can almost get a little bit overwhelmed thinking about that this 30-second little elevator pitch that has to hold so much. And for a lot of people, when they're going to conferences, it's a make or break thing. Like if you don't get your elevator pitch right, you've got this one opportunity to pitch it to somebody who's going to say yes to a contract or no to a contract. And I don't think a lot of people spend enough time actually getting that right. Just like with cover letters, people don't spend enough time. You should be spending just as much time editing your manuscript that you do making sure your cover letter is great before you're sending it out on submission. So it's something I think that people don't take seriously enough, and it probably should be something that people are spending more time perfecting before they are going ahead and pitching.
Yeah.
Well, that's another episode, Michelle.
It is.
We always have
Why
other
do we always
episodes.
do that, Josh? I think it's always...
Right at the end, we're like, oh.
It is true.
Okay.
Next year we'll do that
Next year.
Yeah.
So
Visual.
great
Yeah.
thoughts there.
On the
So we're
feet.
going to
Yeah.
stop it there. Wonderful, wonderful insights once again. So thank you everyone for just all your thoughts, all your thinking, your sharing of your stories. And we'll see you back again next week for our final episode for the year. So for week 8, where we're talking about trends for 2024, 2025. So we'll see you then.